All right. So the developers have released the prototype moves for Illari, which they originally were considering to be adding to her kit. So we're gonna take a look at that and see what we think about these moves and would they have been perfect for her. So, they were doing a lot of building around the character and figuring out what type of moves and stuff to add as well. So the first ability that there is the prototype ability, which is the blind ability. So apparently she was supposed to have a blind. One of the earliest prototypes we planned around with was a blinding ability. After all, this hero who gets the power of the sun, Solar would throw a grenade. Solar, I believe, is the code name that they were using for Illari prior to her release. Would throw a grenade-like sun orb or the spicy basketball in the video below, which would explode and blind enemies within its AoE. So this is what the move would have looked like. Do full screen, so you can kind of get a good look at that. I think that would have been, that's a big ad. That's a huge AoE window right there. I wonder what the cooldown would have been for it. And this was the little model that they used. I think that would have actually been good, but too busted. Okay. That would have been a cool ability as far as the tactical, but the pylon is interesting enough. Well, unless that would have been like her shift. So she would have had like the pylon plus like pylon and then plus having like a blind AoE, which would have like that would have just been too much stuff going on the screen and would have possibly put her up higher, because then like you could blind Reaper could literally walk up and nobody would be able to see it. But I'm sure Kiriko probably would have been able to cleanse it. But that's still a very, very interesting ability that would have made her very annoying, constantly getting solar flared over and over again. So the let's see, we often use models that are already in the game when we're still working through prototyping a new ability, which is why Solar models look awfully familiar when she's dunking on enemies with the basketball. The team experimented with the physics of the ability and how it would affect enemies. After a few changes, the team added visual effects for Solar jumping into the air and throwing it. So she would have jumped into the air, something else they messing with, and then we moved away from the blind ability because of somewhat hidden effectiveness and frustration caused when played against. Pretty sure I've been very frustrated. Didn't feel noticeable impact using blind, but the person getting blinded felt too much of an impact. We ultimately decided that a full screen blind was too much of the type of action flow we're building in Overwatch, because it would have been broken. And AoE like that would have just, as far as like if that was just supposed to be a tactical or something, like, yeah, it's just an ability. That ain't even, yeah, that would have just been very strong. So here's a version of that while being able to jump in the air, which look at that. Like, bro, that's too much. That is too much. You know how many headaches you would catch trying to, how many matches after so many matches of Overwatch? I've literally just constantly seeing that flash on your screen all the time. Yeah, that good thing they changed that. I'm not writing for that. Cool ability idea, but I don't know about a flash like that. That just seems ridiculous. Her leap in the air felt very symbolic to Sunrise, and we integrated into her finalized ultimate captive sun. Yeah. Okay. So the prototype healing ability that they were also thinking about using for Illari and secondary healing fire. Solar's healing capabilities went through a lot of ideation in the prototypes. One of the first ideas was an ability that created pockets of healing with her deployable drone. She would throw a drone grenade to allies and a drone would hover over them to heal. Well, that seems interesting. Let's take a look. I know you can throw multiple ones out, so you'd be able to heal and keep it going. But I wonder, well, they should have had the health down to kind of see what type of health values they would have worked with to see how much it went, because it didn't last that long. But that is pretty interesting, especially because it doesn't look like anybody would be able to break that over their head. But it, for something like that, would depend on the values of healing as far as an ability. And then this would have been her alternate fire. Pocket healing went through a lot of tweaks and adjustments. For example, one version provided more healing to lower HP allies, but was limited in mobility. Another provided a burst heal within the first second to give allies a little more flexibility regarding their placement. There was also a super fun iteration where the drones would automatically track allies. So there's another one of that, but it's tracking. And then I guess you see the healing. Boom. And then it goes to them and keeps healing. That's actually pretty interesting. That's dope. That would have been dope. But then that would have been more managing on the side of Illari compared to how she's played now, where you don't have to manage that much. So you would have to keep looking over at people and worried about your placements. With your place. This type of healing mechanic required a ton of management and attention. Yeah, exactly what I just said. And we wanted something more strategic that allowed her to focus more on her time using the solar rifle. Then a eureka moment came while looking at Torben on Symmetra's turret. We tried a healing turret mechanic with Symmetra during a creative experiment, blah, blah, blah. We had multiple problems on our kit as a whole. Players did enjoy the concept. From this, the healing artifact was born. Initially, a hit scan projectile, a healing projectile. It evolved to what it came now, blah, blah, blah. So this is what the drone looked like prior to what it is now. Oh, it just keeps stinging. Oh, I guess they didn't test the heal values on it. Okay. Solar secondary fire came also a long way from start to finish. The first iteration was a burst healing that could pierce allies like sword drones, railgun, but was on a healthy cooldown, so you wouldn't be able to heal as much. Oh my gosh, that would have been nice. That would have been so nice. That's the bat jump. So that's the fire animation that they were using to be able to fire and then do it. That would have been nice though, because it looked like it goes through everybody and heal. So if you're behind everybody, you're shooting and the team is pushing, yeah, that would have been dope. I would love to see a concept of that used on a different healer in the future, or like a wave type healing mechanic like that, because that's pretty interesting and honestly looks fucking good. So yeah, hopefully we can see this on a healer in the future. That's a good idea. We wanted to give her a simple secondary fire to encourage players to support through damage, but the lengthy downtime made this ability feel too limited, so we pivoted to something single fire, giving it a shorter cooldown. After testing various ups and cooldown, blah blah blah, it just didn't work. I felt like this could have worked with her healing pylon, what it was before, how much healing she was doing. And then actually she would have just been busted with something like this. Even if it was down, the healing pylon was doing so much healing on its own prior to changes. But like a burst wave of healing like this, where you could like literally heal the whole team with your secondary fire as well, on top of being able to do damage, because you could literally do like a Baptiste thing where you're shooting, clicking the head, especially people like in front of you and y'all holding a choke or something like that. Boom, you shoot, you clear, heals everybody in front of you as it passes through. Bow, click the head. Boom, shoot it, clears everybody. And then you still got the pylon over here healing. Then you got like a Kiriko or something over here in the distance, still healing up or whatever. Yeah, that would have worked. And especially depending on like how far that traveled. If that was bigger than like the 15 meters that a secondary fire is now, like that would have still been like pretty cool, a cool idea for it. Prototype, ultimate ability. There were a great many prototypes for Solar's ultimate, so we'll only look at a couple of them within this blog. One of the first ideas sought up was the 5 enemies near Solar and gave them a debuff we called Solar Flare. Solar Flares would damage enemies, reveal their location, and increase their damage taken. Wait, what? Further, we gave this up. Sought up to 5 enemies near her. So they just had to be in near her. Let's take a look. Activate the ult. Boom. 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 I wonder what it looked like on the other screen. Cause you ain't gotta aim that. You just gotta be like Ryan got a shatter or a grab, a flux, anything like that. You just gotta walk, be near that, and they gonna eat that damage and take that ult. Like that's skill is ult right there. And they take damage from it. Nobody surviving that. Plus, depending on what the Solar looked like, that could have been a really good engage tool. if it did have something like a blind where it affect the sight and stuff, it'd been really good for engaging. Like it have like a slow. While this ultimate was cool to play around, it wasn't that cool to play against. The debuff paired with the damage was a little too much, and the chaotic nature of the ultimate was frustrating to play against. Another iteration rifled off solar flares, but the debuff was only applied to enemies. Oh, they didn't specify what the debuff was. So I wonder if it's like how the other one, the current one is, where after you take a certain amount of damage, blow up, or maybe a slow. Yeah, that still would be powerful. A skill, like a zero skill ability. It was cool. Another generation rifle off solar flares, but the debuff was only applied to enemies within an area of effect, rather than targeting them automatically. The area would also heal allies, so there was a quiet bit going on within that circle. All right, let's take a look. Circle, healing, and then doesn't look like it was taking damage, but it still applied. That's actually cool.
Let's give them their medicine.
And it gave it over shield. Oh my gosh, that would actually be nice too. Cause I don't think we really have any what outside of like Mercy and maybe Coalescence are the only two ults that heal, right? Yeah, because what Zen? No, I think Zen does. Well, no, then we got Tree. Yeah, but I wonder what the but there was no damage to this, so that's like we about to die. Let me hurry up and heal, type thing. Okay, many versions of Ultimate increased the amount of damage he dealt, but we felt those would be better suit damage heroes. We wanted to encourage players to support the team by enabling finishing off their opponents, but this our ult is literally still at DPS ability. But okay. By enabling them to finish offing opponents, but some of these early ideas were doing a little too much damage. Yeah. We kept revisiting the status effect inspired by the sun, which kept themed to her personality and gameplay, kept the sun status effect, keeping the ultimate attack ability origin, while also encouraging team play to get as many detonations as possible in a way as damage enhancement effect within a condition of delay. I think some of those are pretty cool ideas that we actually should have kept here. Taking a hero from prototype to game requires a ton of blah blah blah. Although many prototypes never make it out of production, it's always good to keep them for key learning. After all, we never know how these abilities may pop back up in game. In the end, we were happy with Solar. Prototype eventually became Illari, the last child of the sun. And that's it for it. I think these abilities are really cool. I would love to see some of these come back into the future. After being tweaked and seeing how they work. More than likely, if they're keeping them there, I think they're gonna pull some ideas from these for like future heroes and things like this. I really liked it that secondary. I don't care. The drone one seems very, 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 very time management. As far as healing, so I don't know how I feel about that one. Both of these, yeah. There would have to be a lot more going on with this character's kit. But that's a lot of managing and playing right here. The secondary fire, I think one is my favorite, especially if this was healing like bursts like this, where it just cuts through and stuff like that. I would love to see this ability come back in the future here. But that is it at our look at the abilities here, the prototype abilities that they originally were thinking about adding for Illari. All these are interesting. Most def would love to see these back added in the game at a later time. Oh, sure.